Epictetus once said, "The key is to only associate with people who uplift you, whose presence brings out your best." Today, we'll explore how the influence of toxic people can harm us. You'll learn to identify them and how to avoid them. We'll discuss 7 types of people who can hinder your progress in life and how to deal with these challenging relationships. Before we dive in, I'd appreciate it if you could like this video to help me continue spreading Stoic philosophy. If you're not subscribed yet, I recommend subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. 1. The complainer. We all have that friend, family member, or coworker who seems to find faults in everything, whether it's the weather, work, or even the food at a popular restaurant. They never miss an opportunity to express their dissatisfaction. You might wonder why you should care. You can just ignore them. Well, it's easier said than done. Constant exposure to such negativity negatively impacts your mental well-being. It's like a dripping tap, slowly draining your emotional energy reservoir. Stoicism teaches us to focus on viable solutions rather than dwelling on problems. For example, imagine you're collaborating on a project with someone who is a chronic complainer. Every meeting turns into an exhausting session of complaints, with no constructive dialogue. Team morale plummets, you get distracted from seeking effective solutions, and you likely become more disenchanted with the project and life in general. So, how does Stoicism help us deal with a complainer? There are several strategies you can use. First, limit your exposure to that person whenever possible. If that's not possible, perhaps because they are a family member or coworker, your second option is to mentally distance yourself during their complaints. Think of their complaints as a passing storm, loud and disruptive but ultimately temporary and powerless in the face of your unshakable inner peace. Your third option is to steer the conversation toward solutions or change the topic to something more constructive. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This timeless Stoic wisdom encourages us to protect our mental peace diligently, ensuring that the negativity of chronic complainers doesn't divert us from our Stoic path of resilience and virtue. 2. The drama queen. Imagine you're sailing through life like a ship, navigating calm waters. However, you encounter the whirlpool known as the drama magnet. This person seems to have an endless series of crises, conflicts, or controversies, and like a whirlpool, they have the disruptive ability to pull you into their vortex of chaos. You might initially be drawn to the drama magnet's energy, mistaking it for passion or excitement. However, you'll soon realize that being in their orbit is like sailing a ship during a storm, exhausting and perilous. What makes dealing with drama magnets so complicated is that their crises often start to feel like your own. Their chaos is contagious, and you may find yourself embroiled in conflicts you had no initial involvement. Let's consider a practical example. You have a friend who frequently gets into conflicts with other people in your social circle. Today, they're not speaking to Sarah, and tomorrow it's Tom. Your friend comes to you for advice, but you notice that this cycle never ends, and suddenly, you also find yourself in disagreement with Sarah or Tom because you tried to intervene. In such a case, you can employ a technique called reflective listening instead of offering advice or taking sides. Mirror their words back to them. For instance, if they say, "I can't believe Sarah said that about me," you can respond, "So, you feel betrayed by Sarah's words." This technique allows you to provide emotional support without getting entangled in the drama. Another approach, which may seem counterintuitive, is to become selectively unavailable. Stoicism reminds us to value our time, and sometimes that means not being available for other people's crises, especially if they are recurring without resolution. Turn off your phone during certain hours, Create focused periods where you solely concentrate on your work or personal development and make it clear that during those times, you should not be disturbed. To paraphrase Seneca, true happiness is enjoying the present without anxious dependence on the future. This can be particularly useful when dealing with drama magnets. Instead of anxiously worrying about what crisis will happen next, focus on the present moment, where you have control. Enjoy your life, and don't let it be disturbed by someone else's drama. Make it a point to navigate your ship calmly, avoiding the whirlpools that threaten your journey toward personal growth and tranquility. 3. The pessimist. Imagine you're an artist painting a canvas. Each brushstroke adds color, depth, and life to your vision. Enter the pessimist. They walk into your studio, look at your work, and immediately start criticizing it. Are you sure about this color? It doesn't look realistic. Do you know most artists never achieve success, right? Their words, like strokes of gray paint, begin to fade your vibrant canvas. This isn't constructive criticism, which can be valuable, but rather a persistent aura of doubt and negativity. For example, suppose you're excited about the idea of pursuing a new career path. You've done your research, spoken to professionals in the field, and maybe even taken some preliminary courses. When you share your excitement with the pessimist, they quickly list all the reasons why it won't work. The market is too competitive, you don't have the right skills, and what if you fail? Soon, their doubts start to feel like your own, and the self-assured vision you had begins to waver. How do you deal with a pessimist, especially when there may be someone close to you? An unconventional but effective method is to seek their advice rather than simply sharing your plans or aspirations. When people are put in the role of advisors, they are less likely to attack your ideas directly and may offer more constructive feedback. Another approach involves flipping the situation through a technique called positive confrontation. Instead of absorbing their negativity, challenge them to think of solutions. If they say you can never change careers at this stage, counter with an intriguing perspective. How do you think someone could successfully transition to a new career, then? This not only deflects negativity but also encourages a more constructive form of conversation. Remember the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listening doesn't mean absorbing everyone's negativity but rather discerning valuable inputs from mere noise. When pessimists start to obscure your canvas with their shades of doubt, take a step back, listen, reflect, and continue painting your life with the colors that speak to you. Don't let anyone turn your vibrant masterpiece into a gray and monotonous landscape. 4. The victim. Imagine life as a game of chess, where each player has the same pieces and the same goal, to checkmate the opponent's king. You think strategically, make some sacrifices, and take some risks. The victim, however, blames the board, the pieces, or even their opponent for every poor move they make. In their eyes, they're perpetually in checkmate, not because of their choices but because of some external force working against them. Their narrative is an endless tale of misfortunes where they see themselves as the helpless protagonist. I can't advance in my career because my boss doesn't like me, or I can't get in shape because of bad genetics are examples of this kind of thinking. It's important to note that some people face genuine hardships and systemic issues. However, the victim we're discussing uses their situation as a permanent excuse, refusing to take any responsibility for their actions or lack thereof. You may find yourself entangled in their story, perhaps as the supporting character who constantly needs to rescue them. Suppose you've spent countless hours listening to a friend blame all their failed relationships solely on their ex-partners. This not only consumes your time but can subtly encourage you to adopt a similar victim mentality in your own life. So, what's your move when dealing with a victim? It may be tempting to become their savior, offering endless advice and emotional support. However, the Stoics would caution against this and recommend setting firm boundaries to protect your mental state. You can employ a technique known as compassionate detachment. Show empathy and kindness, but don't try to rescue them from situations they need to face on their own. Offer a listening ear, but avoid becoming their perpetual problem solver. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. If you feel yourself being drawn into the victim's narrative, resist the temptation to become one of them. Take control of your chessboard, make your moves, and remember that, in the chess game of life, being perpetually in checkmate is often a choice, not a destiny. Keep advancing your pieces, make strategic sacrifices when necessary, and play not for revenge or pity but for growth and wisdom. 5. People with toxic positivity. They are always exuding joy, rainbows, and a multitude of emojis. They're the ones who tell you to just be happy when you're going through a tough time, ignoring your feelings and experiences with a casual gesture of bright optimism. Imagine your life as a garden. There are flowers, but there are also weeds and pests. The toxic optimist, however, insists on ignoring anything that isn't a blooming rose. If you're facing problems, they'll tell you not to allow negativity into your garden. While this may seem motivating, this approach can make you feel invalidated and disconnected from reality. Suppose you're going through a difficult breakup. You're sad, confused, and seeking emotional balance. The advice from a toxic optimist is, there are plenty of fish in the sea, just smile and be happy. This kind of excessive positivity ignores the complexities of human emotions and the realities of life's challenges. How do you tend to your garden without letting toxic optimists destroy it with their indiscriminate only good things optimism? One strategy is to engage them in a discussion that embraces both light and shadow. If they say, look on the bright side, at least you have your health, you can respond, you're right, I'm grateful for my health, but it's also okay to feel sad about this specific issue. Both can coexist. You can also employ what psychologists call emotional granularity, the ability to feel and differentiate a wide range of emotions, both positive and negative. When the toxic optimist insists you just be happy, take a moment to acknowledge and name your feelings in a more complex way. Saying, I'm feeling a bit melancholic today because of X, and that's okay, can be a liberating statement. Referring to Stoic thinking, Seneca once said, true happiness is to understand our duties to God and man, to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Observe the balance between understanding duties, which aren't always pleasant, and enjoying the present. The Stoic approach is not about focusing solely on the positive or the negative, but about embracing the complexity of life with equanimity. So, the next time a toxic optimist throws their confetti on your carefully cultivated garden, take a step back. Remember that a garden needs both sunshine and rain to flourish. Open yourself to the entire emotional spectrum and continue nurturing your garden with the richness and complexity it deserves. 6. Manipulators. Imagine your life as a movie script, where you're the main character and have an idea of how your story should unfold. Now, enter the manipulator, the shadowy producer who subtly rewrites your script without you noticing, until one day you discover that your story has gone off the rails. The manipulator is skilled in the art of emotional or psychological maneuvering. They can use flattery, emotional blackmail, or even deception to steer you in a direction that benefits them. You may have a friend who always manages to make you pay for dinner, saying something like, you know, I'm going through a tough month, and you're so successful that it wouldn't mean much to you, but it would make my day better. Over time, you realize your generosity is being exploited, but confronting them can be uncomfortable because they presented it as a favor to a friend in need. Dealing with a manipulator can be tricky. One approach to counter their tactics is what some experts call fogging. This technique involves agreeing with any truths in the manipulator's statements but refusing to be swayed by emotional coercion. If they say, "You're so successful that you should pay for dinner," you can respond with, "You're right that I've been successful, but let's split the bill like we usually do." Another approach is to establish clear boundaries and enforce them. If the manipulator wants you to lend them money or commit to tasks you're not comfortable with, learn to say no assertively. Keep a calm tone and your words clear. Saying, "I can't lend you money, but I'm here to offer emotional support," sets a boundary while maintaining the friendship. Drawing inspiration from Stoic thinking, Epictetus warned us that we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. The manipulator thrives on your predictable reactions, manipulating your kindness, guilt, or desire for approval. By choosing to respond differently, you're taking back control of your script. So, if you encounter a manipulator in your life, remember that you hold the pen. Your story is yours to write, and while the cast may include a variety of characters, the protagonist's journey, and your journey, should always be guided by your values and decisions. Claim your script and don't allow anyone to manipulate the narrative of your life. 7. The Timekeeper. Imagine your daily routine as a carefully crafted symphony, where each instrument represents a task or commitment, and when played together, they create a harmonious balance. But then, the time vampire enters the stage, out of tune and overlapping your melody, turning your beautiful composition into a dissonant noise. The timekeeper is not necessarily malicious. In fact, they may seem quite harmless. It could be a colleague who constantly interrupts you with trivial questions, turning your productive workday into a series of fragmented moments. Or it could be a friend who invites you to countless social events you have no interest in attending, making you feel obligated to go and draining your time and energy. These interactions may seem insignificant at the moment, but the cumulative effect can be profoundly disruptive. So, how do you protect your symphony from being ruined by a time vampire? An effective strategy is the Pomodoro technique, a time management method that involves breaking your work into traditionally 25-minute intervals, separated by short breaks. During these intervals, make it clear that you should not be disturbed. This establishes a boundary that safeguards your most productive moments from being wasted. If you encounter a social time vampire, remember that saying no is not only acceptable but essential for your well-being. Instead of offering elaborate excuses, a simple "thank you for the invitation, but I can't make it" is sufficient. Declining an invitation is not a rejection of the person but an affirmation of your own needs and priorities. In the words of Seneca, life, if well lived, is long enough. Stoicism teaches us that time is one of our most precious resources and should be allocated wisely. It's the canvas on which we paint the portrait of our lives, and we must be highly selective about who and what deserves a stroke of our brush. In the grand composition of your life, make sure that every note, every instrument, and every melody is aligned with your higher purpose. Don't allow the cacophonous intrusion of a time vampire to disrupt your symphony. Hold the baton firmly and conduct your life with purpose, ensuring that each moment is a well-played note in your harmonious masterpiece. As we come to the end of today's exploration of the types of people who can divert our path towards Stoic resilience and wisdom, let's not forget that self-awareness is key. It's easy to recognize these types in other people, but the more challenging and enlightening task is to look within ourselves. Perhaps you're inadvertently playing one of these roles in someone else's life. Remember that Stoicism is not just about navigating the world but also about understanding and improving ourselves. If today's discussion has sparked a realization, an epiphany, or even just a bit of introspection, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. Write your thoughts, share your experiences, and let's engage in a dialogue that enriches us all. So, until next time, may your choices align with your virtues, may your actions reflect your wisdom, and may your life be the masterpiece you are destined to create.